I've seen a lot of changes in the video game industry in the over 14 years that I've been working in the industry, and a lot of them have been that this hobby that most people thought was a hobby is now mainstream, is being used in real ways. This new generation of individuals, they're gamers at heart. They no longer want to sit back and watch a television show or watch a movie. They want to be in the action. They want to control the narrative, and video games do that tremendously. Players have changed and progressed a lot over the years. You know, this used to be an industry that was fairly reserved for white males. Now it's broadened because now games are available on mobile devices, on computers, and everything in the world now has a game on it.
I used to play games growing up, and I felt like I couldn't really talk about them with anyone else because not many other people played them. And if they did, it was sort of a certain section of boys. Whereas now, when I look at the students I teach, a lot of them play games on their mobile phones. So they might not consider themselves gamers, but they're playing games. And I don't think there's as much of a stigma around being a gamer as a teenager or a young adult. You're not seen as, I guess, this small subculture. It is bigger and bigger.
Up until now, we've all gone out, we've played in the playground and kind of played with our friends and built sandcastles. Now it's happening all digitally and virtually and globally.
Back in the days of the dinosaurs, when I was a kid, the video games were like the tabletop games. So, you know, you'd go into a coffee shop, a takeaway place, and they'd be there, or an arcade, they'd be there, and that's where I first saw games.
Making games, and once you're into making games, then you get into creating art, you get into coding, you get into creating stories, and so I think it has the potential to move beyond just the playing into the making.
You know, when I was growing up, like playing games for a living, like what? It's unheard of.
I've always written games, you know, so my dad gave me a computer when I was quite young, but he refused to buy games.
Games for us inspired us to do the jobs that we were doing, and just the opportunity that popped up, you know, and it said, do you like serious games? And I was like, well, I play games. I play them pretty seriously. I'll give it a go and see what happens.
I'd love to have the time to spend a bit more time watching Twitch and getting right into it, but yeah, being an adult sucks. Sometimes when it comes to games, there's not quite as much time as you'd like.
I think games have a lot of different purposes. There's obviously escapism and entertainment, and those are important, and people are always going to find ways to entertain themselves. So I think having a more active form of entertainment versus passive might be very good. There isn't a television show or a movie that invites people to use those characters and kind of add to the actual work, whereas with video games, we had Half-Life 2 that was able to be modded, and we've got lots of games that have come from Half-Life 2 mods, like the Stanley Parable has turned into its own game. And so it actually invites people to change the experience and make it their own and make something else, and I think that's fascinating.
Games now as well aren't just looking at topics like, you know, it's not just being a hero or the big cinematic Hollywood stuff. There's a lot more games that are now looking at much more interesting issues and sort of, I wouldn't call them fringe issues, but issues that aren't normally tackled in interactive medium. And I think a big part of that has been the democratization of being able to make games. Now that you've got access to Unity, you've got access to Game Maker, all these easy tools allow just anyone with a computer to start making their own games. And so you start seeing a lot more personal stories.
Really, in terms of progress, what I see is just that infiltration into communities. So, you know, the fact that I'm seeing my mum play Pokemon Go with my 6-year-old nephew is a really kind of great indication of exactly where games are going. There's something for everyone.
Imagine a world where certainly a classroom can play Minecraft together, but now a world where they can put HoloLenses on together and work in the real world but in the virtual space.
VR is another huge place where serious games are going to be used on a massive scale, and the games industry itself is in a prime position to take full advantage of that.
Some really exciting work being done with VR for a variety of empowering activities that older people could engage with. And interestingly, conversely to perhaps what people would think, the preliminary studies have shown that this technology is really, really well uptaken by older people. They really appreciate it and enjoy it and understand how to interact with the technology. So the possibilities are very wide and varied.
Well, that young generation are just something that exists. It's not something new, part of their upbringing.
A colleague, Tobias Starby in the Netherlands, uses The Walking Dead to teach ethics. And so what he does is, the kids play the level 1 of The Walking Dead. They have a discourse about the play and how it went, and then they learn several sets of ethical principles. And they choose to adopt one of those sets of principles to play level 2. And then at the end of level 2, they talk about how difficult it was to live by those principles against the game and the game rules. And obviously, The Walking Dead was never meant to be a game about ethics, but the discourse this engenders is just out of this world.
Certainly hand-eye coordination is a huge one, and I've noticed it particularly with Liam, that he's just developed really rapidly. He's able to use all sorts of technology, really easy and make it look very simple. He's quite the digital native, unlike my generation.
We have VR now, but it's still the same great medium. It can do anything.
It's been my passion since my earliest passion that I can remember in my entire life. Like, the first memory I have of anything was playing a video game.
1979 was when I was first published, and I think what I've seen is an amazing amount of change, but it's the same. I think in the 70s and 80s, there were just as many people playing games. They were just doing it at pubs and arcades. Now it's become more of a personal thing. Now we get, the biggest change is I can find a game for me. So there's more choice.